And we are live. What's up, guys? This is Ruben on Dubb's podcast Connection Loop. And I'm psyched to have Ryan here with me. And Ryan is a friend of Violet Rainwater, whom we actually had another podcast with, which was just a really profound conversation. Encourage you guys to check that out. In case you guys don't know, Dubb is a video communication platform. We allow people to quickly create, share, and track videos. We've got a Chrome extension, a Gmail integration. It works really nicely. Check it out at dubb.com. Ryan, talk to me, man. What is your mission? What are you up to? You've got a beautiful beard.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, part of my mission is the biggest part of my mission is to help others find theirs, to be honest. So I
Ooh.
spent over 20 years in nonprofit work and full-time ministry, and then came into business and corporate America, and realized for a lot of us, there's a missing element of what we do, and that is why we do what we do in the first place, right? And so our mission, why we wake up every morning, what gives us a sense of fulfillment in our life, and bringing that into the workplace and coming alongside companies that want to build that type of culture. That's what I do on a daily basis.
So how do you go about doing that? Because when I always think about mission, I think of a series of failures and accidents. There are very few people that I know, probably less than 3%, that have known their mission since a young age. And when I say young age, that could be grammar school or high school or even college. Most of the time, it's a non-linear path. And then something happens, there's a catalyst, there's a realization. Talk to me, what is your sort of guiding light on that?
It depends on if I'm talking to the individual, like you're discussing here, or if I'm talking to a company,
Got
right?
it.
So if I'm talking to the individual, I would say it goes all the way back to what you've come through your past. That's what gives us compassion, what we've come past ourselves. And so compassion gives us that sense of passion for something specific. So if I've had some type of illness or adversity, a lot of times my life will want to lean in that direction to help others in that same way.
Mm.
So compassion comes from what we've come past. That's where we get passion, where we get purpose, where we get mission, right? So that's the individual aspect of what I work with. But when I'm working with a company, what we do is, rather than starting with why we do what we do, we actually start with what. And that is, what do you do as a business? What's your core competency, your strategic intent? And how do you align that with a greater sense of purpose and a greater sense of why? So looking for that alignment is really crucial. So if I'm a company that's dealing with retail, or maybe I work with a hotel chain that after the end of the year, they have a lot of opportunity to reach out to those that are homeless, to those that may need help in terms of supplying necessary things within their household, and this hotel chain has all of that resource. And so, what resources do you have, and what good can you do out of the what you do every day already? So, really helping companies to find that alignment.
Well, this reminds me of an exercise that I went through at some point in my life where we were trying to figure out what the mission statements of major companies were. And I remember it was kind of a group exercise. I think it was in grad school actually, now that I think about it. And it was difficult because we would say, well, Facebook wants to connect people and Google wants to do this and Apple, we would come up with these missions, but they weren't actually accurate. They weren't correct because if you look at really the core mission of a lot of these companies and that whole kind of evolution and really spiritual process that they've gone through,
Sure.
it's much deeper. It's much higher level. It's about happiness and it's about communication and it's about human beings and existentialism and it's not necessarily about the thing or the product or the service. So I
Sure.
think that I see this as a spiritual process almost, really. The corporate spirit, the individual spirit, I really connect to the idea that, starting with compassion, with empathy and understanding what we've come past. I think that's a really good articulation. I really connect to that. I think that's really interesting. And I think it's important that people do it.
Yeah, you talk about that spiritual component of, and again, I spent over 20 years in the space of just that, right? Like full-time ministry, missional work, giving back, doing good, nonprofit starts with that sense of bringing my soul to the day, right? Like who I am fully, what I'm compassionate about, my empathy, what I care most about, what moves me, what breaks my heart, and how do I address that in this world so that, you know, it sounds like it's cliche, but how do I leave the world a better place than what I
Yeah.
found it, right? And so, but with companies, there's dynamic to larger businesses that come into play, right? So I could talk to a CEO and say, what are you compassionate about? What do you care about? What are you empathetic about? But their employees may not have that same specific desire or passion that they do. And so rather than looking at the sum total of one person's experience, we have to look at the idea of what are we all doing collectively together, and how do we lean that success and that profitability into the world. I call it purposability. How do we mix profitability and purpose together? Purposability where we know what we do. So I take companies through a whole, like, several hours of just working through, like, what do you do as a company? How do you explain it to an 8-year-old, right? What would you say to an 8-year-old? No business jargon. It's exactly what you said. No product. You know, what do you do every day, and how would you describe it to an 8-year-old? Then the second step I take a company through, and this is really quick, I won't take a bunch of time with this, but in the workshop I say, if I gave you $1 billion and you had unlimited resource to start a nonprofit or a 501c3 across the world that would serve what you do that you describe to an 8-year-old, what would you do if you could just start anything you wanted to change the world with unlimited resource? What would you do? And then the third step obviously is saying, I'm not Bill Gates, I don't have $1 billion, but what resource do you have that serves what you would have done had you had unlimited resource? And then what commitments can you start making on a quarterly basis to start doing that good right now? And so that's really how we help companies in a very practical way, because sometimes culture and doing good and giving back sounds very mystical, and purpose and mission. And it's hard to, like, we can put it on a wall, but how does it really touch the heart of our employees and customers? And then we work through, like, what do we do with this? What's the next steps, and how do we align with our customers and with our employees so that it becomes a movement rather than just a moment of, aha, this is what I'm supposed to do in the world. But how do we commit to this as a sustained movement of doing good and giving back and caring about the world?
Well, I think this is the most important theme in business in 2020. I truly believe this. I believe that companies now have to put aside maximizing shareholder value,
Yeah.
and they need to figure out what larger purpose is, what larger good is. We've seen so many corrections. We've seen so many financial corrections for major, multi-billion-dollar corporations from making poor choices that
Yeah.
are the antithesis of leaving the world a better place.
Yeah.
And I think that this really, it's a DNA thing though. So,
Yeah.
one of my biggest challenges at this is that when a company has been around for years and
Sure.
they've set the DNA, to go in and to change this and to re-engineer the way that the shareholders, the owners, the employees, the partners, the entire ecosystem, everyone that's involved, that's not an easy task. Now, is
Sure.
it impossible? I don't think so. But what is happening though is companies their eyes are getting open, because they're realizing that their competitors are coming, many of which are new, some of which are old. They're coming through and they're saying, we are going to put purpose, good, people first.
Yeah.
And as a result, they're getting tremendous amount of success. So either way, companies are going to have to, in my opinion, they're going to have to figure out how to re-articulate to this model. I believe in it that much.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that is just we just have to do it this way. We have to rehumanize business. We have to get back to what makes us human, and the value of that, in terms of what we can do with our success.
With Dubb, you can easily send your business videos from Gmail, LinkedIn, CRMs, and so many more places, but you don't have to take my word for it.
Absolutely perfect.
Screen records, landing pages that can really help businesses to grow.